The bevel modifier is similar to an extrude modifier, with the added ability to produce a chamfered or filleted edge. The corners of an extrude would be at exactly 90 degrees, and that's not terribly realistic, but a chamfered edge will actually catch the light and be more interesting to look at. This logo imported from Illustrator is the perfect example of a situation when we would want to use the bevel modifier. So let's select that and go over to the Modify panel. And in the modifier list, we'll add a bevel. Tumble around in the perspective view with Alt and middle mouse button. You'll see that the back side is renderable and the front side is not. And that's because we have kind of a corrupt object right now. It's actually three-dimensional with a front and back, but the front and back are currently superimposed over one another. They're coincident. We need to give it some extrusion height. That's done from these bevel values over here. Each one of these levels is an extrusion, and between each one of those levels is an outline where we can change the shape or the thickness of the editable spline sub-object splines. So to illustrate, if I just click and drag on the start outline, maybe drag that down, I'll start to make those letters thinner, or if I drag it up, they'll become thicker. You'll see that I don't have much range here. If I bring it up just a fraction of a centimeter, I might get some corrupt geometry. Usually you'll want that to be a value of 0, and that means that we're not changing the shape of the original underlying editable spline. To create thickness, we need to add some height to level 1. If we click and drag on that spinner and set that height to a positive value, we will extrude forward. We can tumble with Alt and middle mouse button. Usually for an extruded type effect, we actually want level 1 to be the front of the chamfer and create another extrusion at level 2 for the main body of the extrusion. And to do that, we would want a negative value for the heights. Level 1 should be negative, so let's bring this down to a negative value, and that will extrude backward. Now let's enable level 2, and likewise give it a negative height. And if you look closely in the top and the left ortho views, you'll see a new line running through. We can see that in the perspective view too if we turn on edged faces. With the perspective view active, press F4. Now we're seeing wireframe on shaded or edged faces. We've got a new edge loop running through all those shapes. The very front here is level 0, or the start outline. And then this is level 1, and the back is currently level 2. Okay, so for a traditional chamfered type effect, we want a very small chamfer in the front. Level 1 should have a very low negative value. Let's bring that down to a value of negative 0.5 centimeters. And we can get in really close in the perspective view with Control, Alt, and middle mouse button. That's going to be our chamfer. In order to get a chamfered effect, we'll need to have some amount of outline. Here's the outline for level 1. If we increase that, we'll see we're able to give it a nice thick chamfer effect. For a 45-degree angle there, we want the outline amount to be equal to the height amount. More precisely, we want this to be the positive sign version of that equality, so we'll set the outline to 0.5 centimeters. And now we're expanding the size of those splines by 0.5 centimeters all the way around. And we're also pushing that level back by 0.5 centimeters. Let's give level 2 a round value of negative 20 centimeters. Now we've got a nice beveled type effect. We can dolly back out again, maybe maximize that view with Alt-W. And that's how to apply a bevel modifier. In the following movie, we'll look at more advanced parameters and how to edit the underlying spline to add detail in case you want to add a deformation effect to the bevel.